I'd like to call the Onslow County Board of Commissioners meeting for Monday, May 20th, 2024 to order at this time. And I'll ask Assistant County Manager Janelle Galloway to lead us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Chairman. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you and conduct the business of Onslow County. Father, we pray for our military and our first responders who continue to serve our country with tremendous courage, commitment, and sacrifice. May all we do this day bring you honor and glory. Amen.
Please
now
stand. Oh, I'm sorry. You can still do that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If anyone saw the surprise on Ms. Galloway's face, is because I cut her off. I moved down the line a little too quick.
That's quite all right, sir.
We're going into a moment of silence before the pledge. So thanks for moving with me there, Ms. Galloway.
Anytime.
At this time, I'd like to recognize the elected officials with us this morning or this evening. Rick Grant, Alderman from North Topsail Beach, our Register of Deeds, Amiga Jarman, and in the back, as always, Sheriff Chris Thomas joined us. Did we miss anyone? I think we've got everyone. So we ask that all in attendance please set your cell phones to silent or vibrate mode. The board offers the public one opportunity to speak during the meeting. Comments should be limited to no more than 5 minutes and may be on any issue in which the Board of Commissioners has control. In accordance with the board's adopted rules of procedure, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period on the agenda. At this time, we need a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. So
I'd
moved.
like a motion to amend the agenda, please. There's two additions.
Okay.
First addition is to add the Swansboro Baseball May 31st fireworks display at 283 Swansboro Loop Road. And then,
So we have a motion. Second.
Nope.
We're going to do that one
Okay,
next.
got it.
Any discussion? All in favor of making that addition to the agenda, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against, like sign. All right, that passes. Mr. Buchanan, Commissioner Buchanan.
I have the second motion to amend the agenda and add a presentation by the Sons of the American Revolution, recognizing Caleb Camp for her service as a paramedic in emergency medical services.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, the motion passes. Now we need a motion to amend the agenda as,
Second.
adopt the agenda as amended. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none. Glad y'all sat through that with us. Now we're looking for approval of the items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. So at this time, we would like to start with the first presentation.
Public comment. Yes, sir. What are you doing?
You okay, buddy?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
We're confused today. Boy.
Come on up. We have a lot going on in tonight's meeting. First, I'm going to hand this to, this is Mr. Chuck Collins, along with President Danny Hilton of the Sons of the American Revolution, with a special presentation tonight representing someone that's very, very worthy of this recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Chuck Collins with the Sons of the American Revolution. This is Danny Hilton, the president of our chapter, Natalie attired in his continental uniform. Just a quick couple of words about the Sons of the American Revolution. We have just chartered a chapter here in Jacksonville, North Carolina, finally. So we are here, and we're here to make a presentation tonight. But who are we? We are male descendants of ancestors who fought or supported the revolutionary cause. We are all about honoring those ancestors. We're all about telling our history properly and correctly. We're all about patriotism, and we're all about community service. And the community service we will get to here in just a second. As I mentioned, the Sons of the American Revolution, they have 500 chapters across the country, over 37,000 members. We just stood up the 28th chapter in North Carolina, and the last chapter to be stood up across the nation. So we're proud of that. If anybody is interested in joining our organization, please contact me at 910-546-5151. Again, for the viewing audience, 910-546-5151. Now for our presentation. We have presented already 4 awards in this county. Sheriff Thomas's Lieutenant Dave Bagby received the Sheriff Officer of the Year. The Jacksonville Police Department, Sergeant Christopher Pedrick received our award. For the fire department, Jacksonville Fire Department, we had 2 recipients. We had Lieutenant Zachary Getz, and we had firefighter Boyles that received one. EMS, we have Caleb Camp, and we are so proud. Caleb is going to be the first recipient in Onslow County of one of our awards. We asked leadership to nominate an individual, and Caleb was a man that was nominated. And why was he nominated? Because at this point in time, he is at the top of his peer group. He brings a lot of value added, significant value added to his organization. He is a true professional. He understands the word commitment. He understands the word esprit de corps and camaraderie, and he understands public service. So we are here. The first thing we're going to present him is a certificate, and this is from, again, the Sons of the American Revolution. It's a beautiful certificate. It's got 2 raised points to it. One is our insignia with the Latin Libertas et Patria, which means liberty and country. And then at the bottom left is a raised seal from the Sons of the American Revolution National Society. And embossed in calligraphy is Caleb's name, and not just any calligraphy, that's raised letter calligraphy done locally here. So we're proud of that. And Caleb, congratulations, buddy. And we also have a medal and a ribbon, which is a EMS commendation from our national society. So if there's some family members, I know Granddad would like to come up here, and Caleb's wife would like to come up here. We would like to get y'all in the picture.
No, we're done.
We're proud of you, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very much. Thank you very much. And don't slack out just because I give you a minute.
Never.
I'm sorry.
I'll get it in a minute.
Okay. Okay, Mom and Dad, yeah.
Come on in.
Yeah. Come on, get in here.
Get in there. Y'all need to be around Caleb.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, excuse me, Tim. Oh, you're fine. You're right there.
4 generations, that's what.
4 generations here.
Am I done?
Thank you. Thank you for
Here.
letting us do this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We also want to thank Donna Pauley for coming out tonight, being present with Caleb for that recognition. And thank you, gentlemen, for doing that for Caleb, and thank you, Caleb, for your service. At this time, Mr. Smitherman, we'll calmly move into public comment.
You sure?
Yes, sir, that we have Mr. Collins. Where did he go? Okay, Mr. Collins had signed up, but I think we've taken care of that. The other citizen signed up is Rick Grant from North Topsail Beach.
Thanks. Just wanted to give you a quick update. Thank you, Commissioner Price. Thank you, Commissioner Bennett, to come for the breaking of our new fire station. As you guys know, when the architect said, apparently the town started looking at it in 2016. So it's been a long time. Thanks, and I think that the 3 cents makes a huge difference for a town our size. Beach projects, we call it Phase 5, which is the bottom miles, should have been done this week. We got into, as we talked about, a little bit of turtle season, but that's finished up. We'll start the next phase, which is the state grant phase. We'll start in the fall once turtle season is over. Hope to finish that this past winter, and then we're also in the process of getting permits for the rest of the town to convert those all to what we call engineered beaches, which will allow us to get federal funding if there's anything involving in a storm. So big thing is just thanks again. Appreciate all the support. We need it. The biggest expense the town has right now is paying off that first loan, which we talked about before. It's like it went up, we had to refinance the thing. But we're moving forward with all the beach projects, and this is huge on the firehouse. And so thank you very much.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
So we'll move right into our public hearings tonight, and Mr. Smitherman, you are going to lead us in those.
Before I open the public hearing, I'm going to ask our Planning and Inspections Director, Carter Metcalf, to come forward and present the first case for tonight, which is the Watkins rezoning.
Good morning, or really good evening, excuse me. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and County Commissioners. Our first item this morning is, wow, I don't know why I keep doing that. First item this evening is the Watkins rezoning request, PRZ 2024 number 2. The applicant is Tidewater Associates Incorporated, and the owner is Mr. Gary Watkins. As we look at a brief overview of the request, it's from residential 10 to highway business. As you can see, there is 5 properties in question with their tax map numbers on the screen. It's located off of a number of roads, primarily when we look at the maps, we'll be able to see Coote Davis Road, but also Wilmington Highway and High Hill Road. Rezoning area in total across all 5 pieces of property is 28.11 acres, and the existing use is vacant. As we review the services, there's a number of different water lines in the area of various different sizes. We have an Onwassa water main along Wilmington Highway of 12 inches, and then a 6-inch Onwassa water line on High Hill, and then a 4-inch Onwassa water line on Coote Davis Road. Wastewater in the area is predominantly individual septic systems. The fire service is for Rona's Fire District with an ISO rating of 3. The most recent traffic count we have is 2019 off Wilmington Highway. The count was 28,500 with staff estimating capacity at 49,000. 3 schools serving the property with Southwest Elementary, Dixon Middle School, and Dixon High School. So look at the subject area. You can see there it is currently residential 10. There is a portion there that you see is in the green, but that's actually right-of-way within that subject area. So again, predominantly residential 10. And we look at the current zoning, residential 10's minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet or 0.23 acres. The purpose of that district is to accommodate moderate density single family and limited multifamily residential in urbanizing areas of the county that have necessary infrastructure to support development at that scale. When we compare to highway business, there's no minimum lot size, and its purpose is to accommodate regional scale commercial uses and foster economic development along our major highway corridors where there's sufficient transportation and utility infrastructure. Look at our comprehensive plan. And the purpose of the rural residential category is to preserve the undeveloped or sparsely developed lands that were not agricultural forestry. Again, to contribute to that impression of being in the county. And again, this is the current comprehensive plan, not the Horizon 2040 plan. Here you can see the proposed plan. They're outlined that rural residential category. And most of that military you see is base land there. Look ahead there, you see there's no regulated flood zones on the property. As we look at reasonableness in the public interest, it could be considered reasonable due to the properties being situated along a major thoroughfare of the county. There's several policies in the comprehensive plan that would support that, such as creating a diversity of shopping opportunities for our citizens. While it could be considered unreasonable because highway business is not necessarily a corresponding category to rural residential. Keep looking at what happened at Planning Board. They met at February 1st, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. The applicant spoke on behalf of it, and one citizen spoke against the request. The citizens' concerns were related to traffic and specifically speeding on High Hill Road, and they mentioned that a commercial would not necessarily fit with the residential character of the area. No military impacts were presented at Planning Board from our base liaison. However, it was noted the property is in the Flight Path Overlay District. And again, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval and adopted a consistency statement. Oh, excuse me. There you can see overview of the property. Here, these aerials were from 2022. The property at that time was forested. It has since undergone some clearing. And again, you can see there was some already natural paths there along the right-of-way. But then if we look on the ground, you can see there behind that thin tree line, there is clearing. This is the view from Old Wilmington Highway. This area immediately in the foreground is right-of-way, but behind that tree line is the subject property. And here's a view from High Hill. You can see there is some clearing that's occurred on the property. So as respectfully requested, the Board of Commissioners consider the proposed zoning map amendment of Period Z 2024 number 2 and adopt a statement of consistency for the amendment and authorize the chairman to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the county. This concludes the staff presentation.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, we will open the public hearing, and our first speaker is Lori Morris.
Good evening. I'm here representing Mr. Watkins, the property owner, who is also here in case there's any other questions that I can't answer for you. This tract does have water availability, but we don't have sewer availability, so we'd have to do septic out here. The tract of land does not lead itself to be a residential because of the loss of septic. I mean, because of the loss of sewer, you'd have to have individual septic for each lot, and there's not enough septic out there, soils out there to create the additional lots that would be needed. It does have multiple accesses onto the highway, and it's halfway between Jacksonville and Sneed's Ferry and leads itself to be a nice retail area in between the two municipalities.
Our second speaker, Mr. Chairman, is Gary Watkins.
My name is Gary Watkins. I am the owner, and I think that Ms. Laurie and Mr. Metcalf has said about everything that needs to be said. But if there's a question of some sort, I'd be glad to answer it.
You'll have that opportunity if the board,
Pardon me?
I said you'll have that opportunity if the board chooses to ask questions later.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's our last speaker, and we will now close the public hearing and turn it over to the board for its deliberation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I did have a question for Mr. Metcalf, if you would. Does the flight path overlay affect the density, the allowed density on the property?
The main concern with the flight path overlay could affect density by looking at the height of structures. So there's a limitation on getting structures that are too tall because obviously aircraft are going overhead. So we limit the amount of stories an apartment complex could be, but not necessarily from a residential component in terms of a typical subdivision.
Okay. That's all.
I have a question. Does the fact, they mentioned the fact that they would have a problem getting septic for individual homes, would that impact the development of this in a highway business situation?
I would defer to the developer on that because we've not had a soil suitability analysis or anything like that submitted to us, but would allow them to speak towards the development of the site.
Okay, I have another question. Then on the comprehensive plan, this seems to run completely counter to what I'm seeing there in the comprehensive plan future land use map, that it says it's supposed to be rural residential. Is the comprehensive plan only relevant if we follow it, or does it have a relevancy, or is it a relic of a bygone era, or what are we talking about?
The comprehensive plan is still a relevant plan, and certainly it's still our guiding document. Now, at portions over time, certainly it's not the most up-to-date map because we have grown. But certainly as we adopt the new comprehensive plan, we'll want to be following that plan. And absolutely, there are still good policies and good planning principles that are in the comprehensive plan, such as locating commercial along crossroads. That's an element that's in the current plan and is proposed in the Horizon 2040 plan. But certainly, comprehensive plans, you want to follow them, and that increases your utility over longevity.
Any further questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 6-1. Mr. Smith?
Mr. Carter, Metcalf will come up again, this time to present the Anderson rezoning. Then we will hold a public hearing afterward.
Our next item before the board is the Anderson rezoning request, PRAZ 2024 number 3. The applicant and owner is Mr. James W. Anderson. And a brief overview of the request is from highway business to rural agriculture. The tax map number is 747-20.1. It's located at 8537 Wilmington Highway and is in the Stump Sound Township. The rezoning area is 4.12 acres and the existing use is residential. As you look at the services in the area, there's a 12-inch Onwassa water main along US Highway 17 and an 8-inch Onwassa water line along Pine Hollow Road, which is a kind of more southern development nearby. The wastewater for the area is individual septic systems. And the fire service is South Onslow, also Holly Ridge, with an ISO rating of 4. The most recent traffic count we had is from the last rezonings from 2019 with a trip count of 28,500, and staff estimates the capacity at 49,000. School servicing the property is Dixon Elementary, Dixon Middle School, and Dixon High School. As you look at the zoning map, you can see here, it's currently highway business and is immediately adjacent to several rural agricultural properties. We compare the two districts, no minimum lot size for highway business, and its purpose is to accommodate regional scale commercial uses and foster economic development along our major highway corridors. We compare to rural agriculture as a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet or 0.46 acres. And its purpose is to maintain a rural development pattern that preserves the agricultural character of the county while accommodating limited low-density single-family and limited commercial uses. The comprehensive plan is medium-density residential, and it's to provide for stable, predominantly single-family residential areas and also accommodate planned multifamily developments with some limited commercial service nodes. Look at the comprehensive plan here. You can see it's that whole strip there is medium-density residential. If you look at the environmental conditions, there's no regulated flood zones on the property. When we look at reasonableness in the public interest, it could be considered reasonable due to rural agriculture being adjacent to the subject property, and there's multiple policies in the comprehensive plan that would support that. Could be considered unreasonable because medium-density residential, because rural agriculture is not a direct corresponding category. However, it is a step towards the right direction in that the rural agricultural category allows for residential, while the commercial would not. Planning Board's recommendation on March 7th was voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. The applicant spoke on the behalf and no citizen spoke against it. No military impacts were presented during the planning board meeting by our liaison from Camp Lejeune. Here you can see the area where it's located along Wilmington Highway. They're just southwest of Folkston Road and Wilmington Highway. You can zoom in there, you can see the property's current residential use. And there is our property where we posted it with the legal notice for tonight, and you can see there the property behind it. Now, as respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider the proposed zoning map amendment of Peri Z 2024 number 3 and adopt a statement of consistency for the amendment and authorize the chairman to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the county. This concludes the staff presentation.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'll open the public hearing, and we have one speaker signed up. Mr. Jim Anderson can come forward.
Hello, I'm Jim Anderson from Holly Ridge, and any questions for me, please?
No questions right now, but if they have some, they will reach out to you
I would like to
momentarily.
bring to light the photo, the last photo that shows the sign. That strip up by the highway is 100-foot wide. It's currently being used by a water line or a water line easement, a driveway, and that is my entire septic tank drain field. So it's not really of any use commercially right now anyway. So that it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, Mr. Chairman, I'll close the public hearing and turn it back over to the board for its deliberation.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just have a question. I noticed on the notes from the planning board meeting that Mr. Anderson said that he had previously rezoned the back of the property, now wants to rezone the front to match it. So was it a split zoning to start with, Mr. Metcalf?
That was just an oversight. When I started, my son is going to build all the way in the back. That's what started this. And my daughter is going to build midway. When I talked to Carter.
Mr. Anderson, you want to come to the microphone?
When I talked to Carter on this, we discussed that only, and just my negligence not to bring up, I just didn't bring up the house. The house has been there since '86. Why I didn't think of that, I'm old.
Oh, no, that's fine. Thank you, sir. And actually, I was asking Mr. Metcalf, so it was split zoning originally, or no?
So the property is completely highway business. Mr. Anderson, as he said, had several properties.
Okay.
Last year, he submitted to rezone several of them, but not this one.
Got it.
And so
Okay.
they are separate.
So
We've
there's,
not had any split
okay,
zones.
thank you. Thank you. I was just curious. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Mr. Smithman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Now, Mr. Metcalf will present item 4C, which is the Sanders rezoning.
Next rezoning item is the Sanders rezoning on the Camp Roads request. It's Peri Z 2024 number 4. The applicant is Tidewater Associates Incorporated, and there are several different owners. So we look at an overview of the request. It's from rural agriculture to residential 15. It is a portion of 4 different tax map numbers. They're displayed on the screen. The location is the Camp Road. They're off of Bear Creek Road, and it's located in the Swansboro Township. The rezoning area is 69.64 acres and is a portion thereof those several properties. So it will result, as we've mentioned earlier this night in this hearing, in some split zoning because it's a portion of those properties. The existing use is that it's currently vacant or forested with also some fields. As we look at services in the area, there's a 6-inch Onwassa water line along Bear Creek Road, 4-inch Onwassa water line along Old Sand Ridge Road, and a 6-inch Onwassa water line along Glencroft Road, a nearby subdivision. Wastewater is individual septic systems, while there is sewer off of Sand Ridge Road. The The fire service for the area is Northeast Onslow with a fire district ISO rating of 4. Most recent traffic count comes from 2022 on Bear Creek Road. The trip count was 3,700. Staff estimates the capacity a little over 13,000. The schools in the area are Sand Ridge Elementary, Swansboro Middle School, and Swansboro High School. To look, here is the zoning map. You can see there the parcel lines are that dark green color, and you can see there the hashed black area where it would go across there, those 4 different properties, kind of following up the Camp Road. Nearby other zoning is residential 15, R20, and then also R5. If we compare the 2 districts, the rural agriculture district is a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, and its purpose is to maintain a rural development pattern that preserves the agricultural character of the county while accommodating limited low-density single-family and limited commercial uses. So we compare that to residential 15, has a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet or 0.34 acres. The purpose of this district is to accommodate moderate density single family in suburban areas of the county that have access to utility and transportation infrastructure necessary to support development at that scale. And the comprehensive plan details the future land use in 2 categories. The first is medium density residential, and its purpose is to provide for predominantly single family residential areas and also accommodate planned multifamily. The conservation category is to accommodate the environmentally sensitive areas, such as those environmental of concern or floodplains. So look at the future land use map. You can see the property in the center is that medium density residential in the darker blue. The lighter blue is the conservation category, which follows the regulated floodplain, which you can see here. Predominantly, most of the floodplain on the property is the AE zone. However, they also do have the coastal A zone and the VE. Any development in those zones would follow the applicable process and would be issued flood development permits with our office. Now with this rezoning, there was a few other items that came up at Planning Board, which we will go through over this slide and the next one. It came to light at Planning Board that a portion of the property, a portion of the subject rezoning area is on the state's National Registry of Historic Places. It was placed on the list in 1991. And you can see there, and so the map on the right, that green area is from the State Historic Preservation Office, and staff did our best to kind of show you comparatively how much of that overlaps with the subject rezoning area. As well, the property was listed for having several historical structures, as well as some of the farm fields were also placed in that designation. In conversation with the state's Historic Preservation Office, they indicated further studying of the Sanders Historic District is necessary and to ensure that no other historical artifacts are within the rezoning subject area from previous indigenous people that could have been on the property. As well, they also note, and you can see on the screen, there are specific structures that also were designated with historic status. As well as also there's potential military impact with the property. The property is a property adjacent to Bear Creek, so across that is on the base, is designated as ground zero for military impacts. The military owns all of the airspace all the way to the ground above the property. There's 2 potential impacts for any sort of development on the property. The first would be aircraft noise. There are a variety of different kinds of aircraft that fly in the surrounding area and specifically close to the ground over Bear Creek. And as well, there's also impact noise. So there is a detonation area nearby for aircraft target runs and for also warships. There are 3 artillery positions, and specifically one that fires at a lateral level. The property falls within the 62 decibel range, and therefore noise from these activities could be heard frequently and could shake dwellings and rattle windows. As well as also stated that typically residential developments is not encouraged within these areas. If we look at reasonableness in the public interest, the proposed rezoning could be considered reasonable because R15 is a corresponding category to the medium-density residential future land use category, supported by several policies of the comprehensive plan where we want to increase a variety of housing within the community. However, the proposed rezoning could be considered unreasonable due to residential 15 not corresponding with the conservation future land use category, the potential historic and military impacts, as well as not aligning with other policies of the comprehensive plan, such as continuing to coordinate with the base and the preservation of historical assets. Now, Planning Board, they met at March 7th, and they voted unanimously to continue the hearing to April 4th. They instructed staff to continue to look into the historic preservation aspects of the property, which is presented to the board at April 4th and before you as well. The applicant spoke on behalf of the request, and no citizens spoke against it. Military impacts were presented at the April 7th meeting by our base liaison. And then at the April 4th meeting, it was voted unanimously for recommendation of approval. Look at the property here. You can see with the aerials, this is where the property falls there along Bear Creek. Closer look at it, you can see there the property is currently forested with the very edge of it within some of those farm fields as mentioned before. Here's where we posted the property along Bear Creek. State law allows us to post within the adjacent right-of-way, so we posted there so that way more citizens would be able to have an opportunity to see the sign rather than if we posted the sign, it would have been very far away from common travel. So it was respectfully requested the Board of Commissioners considered the proposed zoning map amendment of Period Z 2024 number 4 and adopt a statement of consistency for the amendment and authorize the chairman to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the county. This concludes the staff presentation at this time.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, we will open the public hearing. We have 5 speakers signed up to speak, and the first one is Josh Edmondson.
Mr. Commissioner Board, I am Josh Edmondson with Tidewater & Associates, part of the development team here to speak with you tonight. I'll speak to just a couple items, and my colleagues will speak to a couple of other items. We do feel that this request is consistent and in line with the land use plan. I do understand staff's position on the conservation easement and the 4 or 5 policies there listed that may be inconsistent. However, those areas being in floodplain and basically wetlands will remain as conservation areas within our subdivision. We are designing around that. They will include walking trails, recreation areas, amenity areas for the potential development of this property or the subdivision. So the intent of the conservation area will still be met, even though the entirety of the property is R15, and while we understand R15 isn't quite consistent with that conservation area. When it comes to the concerns from the military about the noise and fly zones, completely understand that. However, if you look around in this area, there are many other subdivisions developed in a similar fashion in high sensitive areas. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Metcalf maybe can talk more to this. I believe in the current land use plan, when that was being talked about with the base and even the zoning ordinance that R15 was allowed, the military did say that was okay in this MDR district in this area. So again, we feel like we are consistent with the land use plan and with what our development is trying to do. We are being very sensitive here to the environment. As a matter of fact, Ms. Gloria Sanders, who is the developer, if we went in and started messing with any wetlands, needless to say, she would probably have our heinies. So we are very sensitive to that, and that will remain. And we are here. I'm here to answer any questions you have. And as I said, Ms. Sanders and a colleague, Jonathan McDaniel, will also come up and present a few facts for you at this time. Thank you very much.
The next speaker, Mr. Chairman, is Jonathan McDaniel.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for your time. Jonathan McDaniel. So if this does get rezoned, we will pursue a residential subdivision, and I'd be the design engineer of record for it. So available for any kind of technical questions that could come up with this rezone. Also, too, wanted to speak on the historical comment. I also serve on the side as the chair of Swansboro's Historic Commission, so I speak the language and spoke with the State Historic Preservation Office and why they chose such a large area for this study list. And they said basically just picked a line because of one of the deeds. But they were just saying that the farm was eligible to be on the National Register if the owner wanted to. But yeah, there are some historical structures, but they are not within the subject rezone. Miss Gloria is a fan of history, has a degree in archaeology. There will be nothing messed with historical on the property. But yeah, I'm trying to think of, any other technical questions that come up, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the next speaker is Gloria Sanders.
Thank you, gentlemen, lady, and I want that to be plural the next time I come in here. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Gloria Sanders. I am the last Sanders to live on this property. It is a family farm. It was a king's grant from England to our family in the 1700s. It has dwindled down to a little less than 400 acres with 2.5 miles of waterfront. We have a wonderful opportunity. My sister, Sarah, lives in Atlanta. She and I have spent probably 25 years conceptualizing how can we honor our family? How can we honor our county? How can we respect our family heritage? What you are going to vote on tonight is the beginning of that concept. And I invite you to ask me to meet with you individually or collectively to share our vision. It is very comprehensive. It is very thorough. It speaks to all facets of human living, from architectural factors to living healthy lives. This is my 56th year of practicing physical therapy without a break. So health is important. Our dad was a farmer. He's a graduate of NC State, agriculture, 34 to 38. I have a seafood hatchery there. How about sea-to-table fresh seafood? How about an active lifestyle? I was a professor at East Carolina. I'm a retired Army colonel. I taught in the Army Physical Therapy School. What about intellectual things for people who live in our village? We're all about all of this, and we're trying to develop every facet of that into the most fabulous living environment that I know of. So this is the beginning. This is the beginning of that. I want your ideas. I want to have something that is so fabulous that it is in every magazine, our state magazine, Coastal Living, Southern Living, and I want every one of you sitting up there now to say, I was a county commissioner when Sanders was built. I want that to be a flag in your career as well as ours. So help us to help the community, the things that we are envisioning. I have people say, I don't know any place that's like what you are envisioning. Can I sign up now? So help us to do something absolutely fantastic for this county, for our family, for our heritage, architecturally, living environment, everything about it. Thank you for your time, and help me to help all of us. Thank you.
The next speaker is Helen Fowler.
Gloria Sanders. Gloria Sanders. I know her well. Know her? Oh, I don't know. I'll catch it.
Hello, my name is Helen Fowler. I'm a homeowner on Bear Creek. I really appreciate what Gloria Sanders is trying to do. But as a homeowner that moved there, I happened to be at the right place at the right time. Military family was moving. I'm right on the water. It's gorgeous. I'm surrounded by woods, deer, possums, raccoons, all kinds of egrets, wildlife. All of this is going to go when she has this fabulous community built. Yes, I live on a 1.5 mile dirt road, and yes, it's a pain in the butt sometimes when it rains and rains and rains. But I wanted peace, quiet, nature. It is gorgeous there, and she's going to take this away from me. I know I'm just one person. I appreciate Gloria Sanders. She's a wonderful human being, and I think that her vision is wonderful, but the impact it's going to have on the roads, the noise. I don't know how to tell you how much against this I am, and I'm not the only one. And I have not seen that little sign in fine print about this meeting. The few people that have come to me and said, "What? Why is Gloria doing this? This is such a gorgeous place." And she's gonna just wipe it off and build all these fancy homes and walking trails. Well, what's gonna happen to all this nature? I know I'm just one person, and please, no disrespect to Gloria Sanders. It's just, after 24 years of living in a homeowners association community, I wanted to get away from that, and I've had it for 8 years, and now I'm getting ready to lose it. So thank you for hearing me.
Mr. Chairman, the final speaker is Robert Cooland. Cooland. Please tell me how to pronounce it.
What is his name again?
Couillard.
Couillard.
Yes.
Couillard.
Lady, gentlemen, I appreciate having this time here. As the last speaker just addressed, I'm going to see some of that impact, probably not in this zone, but in 2 zones from now, where I think the plan is headed. There was a elaborate email put out on a couple meetings ago. I think the ones that weren't on the board at that time need to hear that. It was a lot of residents that were that voiced their opinion on nature, on that. But my biggest concern is the flooding. I had neighbors, their garages were flooded. I had a couple of gentlemen, I let them go on my property to survey. They're saying there it's non-traditional water. Well, the ones that weren't on Glencroft don't realize that probably probably about 6 weeks after Florence, and sometimes it floods, all that water has to go somewhere. The ones that around Florence and after Florence, Bear Creek was flooded, and there was cones put out for months. And what I got from the Onslow was the water needs to flow to the other side of Bear Creek. Well, if that, and I'm not here to stop. I think what Gloria has, her vision is great, but what I'm seeing is that water has to flow over there. What's the impact of my neighbor's garage flooded, or the wetlands behind my house? I own 3 properties on Glencroft, and one of them was right up to the foundation. If this happens and that water can't flow out, then do I have flooded houses? It could be. I just want to voice my opinion. If this does go forward, my houses and Glencroft going to be flooded. I know they talked about retention ponds or whatever. If that's the case on how to build this, I need retention ponds on the opposite side of Bear Creek. Because when they came about 3 months prior to getting the water off of Bear Creek, they said it was clogged underneath Bear Creek, and we had to flow through there. But I think everybody needs to hear that elaborate email from the residents that were out there on environmental. They're building more houses here. We have problem with a lot of critters coming to the houses now. They just had, you see that the bear on Sand Ridge going to the community. There's no place for these wildlife to go. I'm not a tree hugger, but I know there's a lot of houses getting built on Sand Ridge, Queens Creek, and Bear Creek. There's houses going through. They talked about the military impact. They talked about schools overcrowded, and they talked about the traffic. And what's other coming up here is they're going to close Queens Creek Bridge. Traffic's going to be even more. But my biggest concern, gentlemen, is the flooding on possibly phase 2 or 3, and I want it to be heard now. So if there's something we could do to rectify that, and I don't have property underwater. Thank you, ladies, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, that was the last speaker. I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to you, sir.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that as I look at the comprehensive plan, there were 5 policies that supported this, that supports this rezoning, but there were 7 policies that were against it. And so that combined with the historical concerns and the military impact and the flooding concerns, kind of got my attention. So I just wanted to make that point.
Let me say something. I guess it was Helen and Robert. Is that your name? Yeah, okay. So I'm familiar with low-level flooding. I'm from North Florida where I lived. I live next to a bayou. When we get major storms in there, it floods really bad. So I remember as a kid with my father, there was a development going up and they stopped it because of the flood potential. And I was here in Florence, and I remember Bear Creek being underwater. I'm looking at the map, and what concerns me, one, is the flood zone. Okay, if you add additional houses there, it's going to flood. And anybody tells me that Bear Creek is not going to flood is lying to you. It will flood because it is a low-lying wetland area. I almost bought a house when I got here in 1990 in Bear Creek, but for that reason, I did not. And I came into the city. The second thing is, I like your phrase, would you say tree hugger? I'm not a tree hugger either. And I like the phrase. I'm not a tree hugger either, but what concerns me is the historical value and the historical significance of some of these sites. I'm a big history buff, and I'm a firm believer in maintaining our history. I applaud the effort that what you're trying to do. I'm not trying to condemn that. But in my conscience, I don't know how the rest of the board, I can't vote for this because of the reasons that I listed. And I'm concerned about the flooding because I remember again in Florence how bad it was and how many years, basically, it took to recover from that. And to stay consistent with my voting, we had a similar situation with housing in Bear Creek. Bear Creek's, it's a heavily trafficked area by car and Blue Creek Road, or not Blue Creek Road, but Queens Creek Road. And I have some friends out there, and they were trying to build a development out there, and it was pushing on nature, and it was a low-lying wetland, and it flooded during Florence. And I could not vote for that rezoning. For the same reason, I cannot support this rezoning. I think you should, it's a beautiful property out there where you live. I don't think we should be pushing on nature and the wildlife, because you are going to push the wildlife out of there into other areas. You have the flood potential there, and you also have, I'm in the Air Force, and I lived with B-52s flying at 2 o'clock in the morning. I understand the noise. And I was living on base at the time, and I couldn't stand it, because every morning at 2 o'clock, they'd rev their engines, and you could hear it, because I only lived 1.5 miles from the runway. And I appreciate what our Marines do, but if I was a homeowner and I was going to buy a piece of property close to an impact area, in a flood area, and I'm going to hear this all night, my wife would literally kill me. So I can't support this, and no offense to anybody, but my vote on this is going to be nay.
I've known Gloria Sanders for a long time. I didn't realize this was your property. I've been down in that area many, many times. I can tell you that Gloria Sanders, when she says she's going to do something, she'll do it right. She's been a native of this county for many, 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 many years, and she does a good job at what she does, and she's been very good to the environment over the years and has helped out with a lot of different things that I can remember over the years. And Gloria, if she's going to say she's going to do it right, it'll be right. Thank you, Gloria.
Let me say, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the developer's attention to these concerns, both the conservation and the historic elements of the property. I totally agree that they're gonna mitigate these issues as best they can, and I find it totally unfair to say that I can have my beautiful view and in my waterfront, but the next door neighbor doesn't get to have one. So I think she's going to do what she says she's going to do, and I'm going to vote in favor of this rezoning request.
I contacted Mr. Metcalf today initially because I was concerned about the first rezoning we had and this one as well, because whenever I see a whole bunch of trees, and I'm not a tree hugger either, I'm really not, but the concern that I always have is if it is clear cut, and it sounds like Mrs. Sanders, you've got something planned that sounds beautiful and wonderful, I just still, it makes me stop and think a minute. And then looking at the historic thing, I get that's something that can be accommodated. The military impacts does definitely concern me, probably even more than anything, though. And I really don't, I feel like there's too much for me to consider to vote yes on it tonight, so I won't support it either.
Got one thing. Now, Mr. Metcalf, can you tell me how many units are going to be built in this the subdivision, and how many phases are we talking about?
In terms of how many units could be developed, certainly we would estimate that you could do about 3 to 4 units an acre. But as well, I know that you're mentioning the phases certainly yet to come. I would defer to the developer and certainly their engineer on what technical plans that they have developed.
It's what concerns me is the schools that's in the area now. We're already needing classrooms in the elementary schools and the middle schools. I have concerns about it, but I've got to be honest with you. The lady does what she says she's going to do. So, Tim, I got to go that way. Okay. We've talked about military impact, and we do have a gentleman in the audience that is an expert in Onslow County military impact. So if we can bring, if we have Mr. Tim McCurry. He's liaison with the Marine Corps, and he can share with us what he shared with the planning board.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Tim McCurry. I'm the Marine Corps liaison for Camp Lejeune New River. First off, I want to say that when we went in front of the board, the rural agriculture and the R15 are both medium density uses, so we do fall underneath that. We were able to work with the board to get this thing rezoned from high density residential to medium density residential. This falls underneath that category. That being said, it's ground zero for everything that we got coming out of Camp Lejeune. You're going to hear it. If it goes from a pistol all the way up to a 155 round, you're going to hear it. 5-inch naval gunfire, you're going to hear it. One correction for the record, military does not own special use airspace. FAA grants us military use of that airspace. So that is one correction up there, but we do go all the way down from the ground, all the way up to 25,000 feet now. So I can answer any question on the decibels off of that piece. For a 62 decibel reading that we have in the areas, from our range compatibility use zone studies, we don't recommend residential development. This being blast noise, you can't do anything for it. If it was traffic noise or something along that line, you could do something like noise level reduction. You can't do nothing for blast noise except for put a mountain in between you and the noise source. So we cannot do that. So this is a high impact area. And I've been out to that area quite a few times with residential developments in there, talking to property owners for damage complaints and stuff along that line. So but I would go back to what I said before, from what is rural agriculture allows you to do residential development, so does R15. And the future land use, it allows that type of residential. However, from the board itself, you're going to be receiving that from, if they want to call somebody, they're going to be calling you. So any questions on my?
Any questions for Mr. McCurry? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Metcalf, can you go back over the floodplain for that area and the impact?
Absolutely. So here you can see the regulated flood zones. It does come up there on both sides of the property, and those are the AE flood zones. So what happens when there is flooding, the AE zone is from inundation of water. So that means that it's simply just by natural flooding tendencies. There you see along the coast in the teal, and that red hashing area, that would be from wave action. Think of the event of a hurricane from storm surge. Now, of course, we always tell folks when we're talking about flood, water doesn't know a line on a map. Water's going to go where the water wants to go. So just because here in our FEMA model, it is not showing that, wave action would be up that high doesn't mean it cannot. And in the AE zone, you could see waves that are 1.5 feet and lower. That line, it just indicates that it's over 1.5 foot waves from storm surge.
And the Bear Creek Road, where that flooding took place and had that road knocked off, was that from what you just said, the inundation, and not necessarily from the creek?
Yes, sir. That was inundation from Hurricane Florence.
Okay. All right, and last question for me. Right now, it's residential agriculture, and single-family residential, two-family residential, so forth, can go on there with a lot size minimum of 20,000 square feet. If it's rezoned to R15, those lot sizes drop down to 15,000 square feet, which means additional homes can be built on that property. Does that 15,000 square feet, is it where a home can be built on 10,000 square feet and another home on 25,000, as long as it stays in the framework of 20,015 overall when it's completed?
Yes, sir. So under the RA development, they're not allowed what's called a planned residential development, which is what you're referring to. So in R15, you could have a lot that's less than 15,000, provided another one is greater than 15,000, because we just want to make sure that the average is at least 15. So that provides flexibility to help preserve areas of wetlands or certainly, areas of environmental concern. So certainly the lot size would be diminished from 20,000 to 15.
I said that was my last question, didn't I? I apologize for that. Under the RA, and it's not available to create the subdivision, So is it less regulation on moving and building homes in a RA development? Or is the R15 where you have to submit the paperwork for water, rainwater runoff, all the other regulations that come with the development of subdivisions? Is there a difference between RA and R15 for everyone to understand the differences?
So the major subdivision process, regardless of the zoning district, is the exact same.
Okay.
So you still have to have all of your state permits, soil and erosion control, state stormwater, roadways, water line, all of that. The only difference is that in the RA, you'd be bound by the 20,000 minimum lot size, no exception. In R15, you have that flexibility with that planned residential development. So they could do a subdivision today under the RA rules. It would just be a minimum lot size of 20,000 instead of 15.
So just numbers, instead of 35 homes, there would be 75 homes. Of that nature. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or discussion? All right, thank you, Mr. Metcalf. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign.
Nay.
So that motion carries 4-3.
Can the nays just raise their hand for the audiences?
For what?
Nays?
If you're a nay, if you'll raise your hand. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Video of the flooding.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but we can't. I thank you.
I had to build a seawall to save my house.
All right. So now it moves us to general items.
I think the good sheriff's going to take us home.
Well,
we have
before yes, I was going to ask that question. He's getting ready to do this one, and then we'll follow him with the addition to the agenda.
Yes,
So
sir.
will the addition to the agenda come before Sheriff Thomas or after Sheriff Thomas?
However you prefer.
Your preference, sir.
Sheriff Thomas is already up here unless you want to take us to the house. I will listen to the guy with the gold badge. So we, this time, the amended part of our agenda will bring up Mr. Carter Metcalf again for the Swansboro baseball fireworks display.
All right, so my final item before the board tonight is a fireworks permit. So Mr. Kevin Wetzel of Wetzel Pyro has submitted a request for a pyrotechnic permit to allow a fireworks display on May 31st of 2024. It would be for the Swansboro baseball fireworks display at 283 Swansboro Loop Road in Swansboro, North Carolina, 28584. A copy of the permit application and supporting documentation has been included in your packets, to include the application, operator's license, request form from our department, the insurance certification, the site plan, and the shell inventory. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider the approval of the pyrotechnics permit for a fireworks display on May 31st of 2024 for the Swansboro baseball fireworks display at 283 Swansboro Loop Road in Swansboro. And if approved, authorize the fire inspector with our office to issue the permit.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Buchanan, have we had this happen before where they come down to the last minute?
Yeah, one time before.
I didn't know if it was the same, so,
I don't think so.
yeah, but I know we've done it somewhere before like that, but.
Yeah, we had it once before.
Okay, good deal. So, all right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Now, Sheriff Thomas, thank you, sir. Number one, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chair, Commissioners. On April 24th, 2024, the City of Jacksonville received 4 bids for installation of fiber optic cable from the Government Center to the Sheriff's Office Training Center. The fiber optic cable will provide county network and internet service for the training center in order to facilitate law enforcement training at the training center. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners approve the interlocal agreement and authorize the chairman and interim finance officer sign all necessary documents to officiate the interlocal agreement.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any
Mr.
discussion?
Chairman, I know that some of our other tenants down Burton Park have had problems with internet access. Are they going to be able to use this same
No, sir.
fiber optic?
No, sir, it's a dedicated line that runs from the city of Jacksonville here to this facility, and as I understand, it's not, one can be.
It's not a public line.
It's not a public line.
Yeah, we
Now,
actually
that's as
own
I
that.
understand it.
It's a private line.
No Netflix.
No Netflix.
No Netflix.
Listen to him.
All right. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you for your service. I spent 7 years in the military.
All right. No consent agenda items. We'll move right into Mr. Smitherman and the manager's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief this evening. Next month, at your meeting on June 3rd, we will be presenting officially for you and for the public the proposed budget for FY25. The board will receive its copy of that budget on May 30th, and it will be available for public inspection that day. Two things I just want to pull out to speak of briefly. One is that we are proposing considerable investments in our workforce and in our employees, the compensation and benefits and culture of the organization. We are calling the program Valuing and Investing in an Exceptional Workplace. And it contains about $8 million worth of proposals that we will present to you in the budget document on June 3rd, all designed to make our workplace excellent, not only for our employees, but for the customers that come and receive services from us on a daily basis. Another thing, not a lot of money, but a big initiative, is working cooperatively with the City of Jacksonville and Onwassa to fund the Joe Ed strategic plan for the next 5 years. All three entities are coming together to invest in economic development and our strategic planning in economic development to help Joe Ed adjust its mission for the next 5 years and create a work plan that we all have input on and we all get behind and help implement over the next 5 years. And then finally, I would call your attention, as well as everyone listening, to our website to participate in the Comprehensive County Health Assessment. This is done every 3 years with our hospital to get an understanding of the health challenges and health metrics of our community so that we can adjust our services and the hospital can adjust its services to better meet the needs of the community. And that can be found on our website. That's all for me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll put it up for grabs. Who wants to be the first commissioner to speak?
I'll go.
Why don't you, Commissioner Buchanan?
It was a busy week last week for all of us. I mean, we were all over the place. I mean, it was just interesting. Public Safety Memorial in Jacksonville, I went to that on Wednesday. All of us, quite a few of us, were at the groundbreaking for the Museum of the Rain. After 24 years, we broke ground. I've been very fortunate to be a commissioner for 20 years, and I've been watching it every day for the last 20 years. And it was 4 years prior to that they started it. I believe that this board here is really supportive of the Museum of the Marine, and I think we need to do more for them in the coming budgets and anything we need to do there. And then we had the Commander's Cup golf tournament, which was really interesting. The team I was with took first place, and I think David Smitherman's team took second place, if I remember correctly.
Sure did.
So the General Garcia is the one that sponsored that golf tournament. It was a very outstanding tournament, and we had a really good time, and the food was delicious. Thank everybody for being here.
Next. Commissioner Scott.
Okay, well, budget time's here. We're gonna see what's going on shortly about it. Be aware of your surroundings. As you see in the news and everywhere else, we got alligators, snakes, everything else. So we got wild kingdom out there. Just be careful. Know where your pets are. Most definitely know where your children are. Okay, God bless you. It's a privilege to serve, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
I'll talk. So echoing what everybody else has said, my favorite thing, I think, was to be able to witness the groundbreaking of the Carolina Museum of the Marine after all the years that 3 individuals have been just holding on to that vision. To finally be able to see it come to fruition, the first steps of it was very exciting and wonderful to watch. We also went to the Joe Ed annual meeting, and heard some great information from a gentleman that's very vested in the economic development of the state of North Carolina, and got some exciting, reports on what's coming up for our economic development here locally. And I too, like Walter, am looking forward to getting that hottest item off the press in our hands, the budget. Yippee. Have a great week.
Next. Mr. Bennett.
I'll take it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Mr. Smithman, while we're talking about that fiber optic cable, I would assume they're gonna put conduit in the ground, and there's no reason why you can't put two fiber optic cables in the same conduit. It might be a way for us to supply some help for the other tenants down there that they desperately need without having to spend a whole lot more money. I did get to go to the opening ceremony of the Jacksonville Fire Station number 4. That was a very nice station, and I got to see the operation of the new, we talked in a workshop about the new doors.
Bifold.
The bifold doors, and those are definitely, I can see how they're a benefit for the fire station to be able to get out quicker and probably save the roof of the truck several times. And then finally, I'm going to have to read a little bit of this, but I went to Thursday, May the 9th, I attended a community partner meeting for the Onslow County EMS Race Car Trial Program. The race car trial is called Randomized Cluster Evaluation of Cardiac Arrest Systems, and it's a 7-year trial project hosted by Duke Clinical Research Institute. Onslow County is participating in the trial with the goal of improving survival of people who suffer cardiac arrest. We're one of 305 EMS systems in the state of North Carolina that has been selected to participate in this study. The elements of the study are to optimize medical 911 dispatch, focusing on recognition of possible cardiac arrest, enhanced bystander initiation of CPR by 911 telephone coaches, comprehensive community training of lay people in CPR and AED use, and improved first responder performance, including earlier use of AEDs. We got to hear from a heart attack survivor, Mr. William Brown, whose life was saved by our exceptional EMS teams, starting with telecommunicator Jessica Aubachon, who directed Mr. Brown's wife how to perform CPR over the telephone and kept him alive until some of our wonderful deputies, Deputy Mike Hardison, Aaron Ford, Samuel Barnum, arrived at the scene and continued CPR. And then our paramedics, Captain Kevin Hawkins, paramedic Travis Ginn, paramedic Taylor Richards, EMT Dylan Stevenson, and EMT Gary Arnold treated the victim until they got to the hospital. And I got to hear his story at this meeting because they kept him alive until he could get to the hospital and be saved. The whole purpose of this program is to teach citizens how to do hands-only CPR and use AEDs. And our EMT, our emergency medical service people are prepared to go to your organizations, your churches, your clubs, and to teach your friends, relatives, people how to save a life and keep somebody alive until they can get to the scene. I think it's a great program. I enjoyed learning about it. I appreciate our emergency services people presenting it, and I hope that some of you will take advantage of the program and the opportunity to have them come in and train in hands-only CPR. You don't have to blow into people's mouth anymore. They just do it with hands. So no excuses to not save a life. Thank you for being here tonight. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Commissioner Price, that leaves you.
Congratulations to all those involved in the groundbreaking of the Museum of the Marine. I think Commissioner Buchanan said it had been 24 years, and I asked him how much the board over the years had contributed. He said it was well over $1 million, if I remember correctly. So That is exciting to see some bricks actually getting laid one on top of the other. So, good things happening there. Once again, congratulations, North Topsail Beach Fire Station number 2. They're going to get it up off the ground, won't have to worry about any water coming in and that kind of thing as well. So, that's important there. Also, this time of year, graduations are occurring. Our Coastal Carolina Community College had a graduation. I was unable to make it this year. My niece was getting married, so my wife felt like that was much more important. So, and I did too, actually. So, but I always did like going to the graduation and honoring those people who are furthering themselves, making themselves better. So congratulations to those coastal grads. Also to our high school seniors who are coming up on graduation here in the next couple of weeks. Congratulations to them and their families as well. Special time for them. So have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chairman.
Well, I got to start off by first, because I know she's listening, I got to wish my wife a very happy birthday. It was her birthday last week. We went out to Myrtle Beach Saturday to celebrate and take her to her favorite restaurant. And I'm not going to tell you her age because I won't be able to get into the house if I did. So I'll just leave it at that. But she's listening out there, so happy birthday. Unfortunately, last week I literally saw the accident happen on Piney Green at 17, where an elderly man had ran the stop sign or stoplight and a Ford F-250 slammed into the side of him. It was right there in front of where I work. But what I was amazed at, as soon as the accident happened, I called 911, and they already had people calling. There were people that jumped out of their vehicles in the middle of the intersection to run towards the cars. There were about 6 of them. I counted them. And I ran across the street to get over there, and the EMS staff of Jacksonville and Onslow, because there are some Onslow County units that responded, there were 3 ambulances that were there within 2 minutes. I mean, literally 2 minutes. And they had to use the jaws of life to get an elderly man out of the vehicle to cut his door. The airbags deployed, which actually saved him. And then they came, and because the vehicle was leaking diesel fuel, they sprayed it down with foam, the whole intersection, as a precaution. And I was really impressed with that. It's unfortunate that an accident had to happen, but the fact that we have staff that responds the way they do professionally, quickly, on time, all I can say is we probably have the best EMS service in the whole state of North Carolina, bar none. From the telecommunicators to the EMTs, EMS, firefighters, police officers. Here's another thing. I ran into an old friend who used to work at the PD. She worked there for 15 years, and when I ran up to the car, she was already talking to the victim, but she doesn't work in the PD anymore. She works DMV enforcement. And she happened to be driving by when the accident happened, and she immediately put on her blue lights in her DMV vehicle, put on her police vest, and ran out to the intersection as one of the first responders. And Karen Scott, if you're out there, I'm sure you can hear this. I'm really proud of you. That was inspiring. I mean, she took the time right then and there to respond and help someone out. So my kudos to the EMT and EMS people, firefighters, and everybody that was involved. And I was impressed with the telecommunicator. Because when I was on the phone with 911, I told the individual what I was seeing, and she wanted more information, and she talked me step by step, give me this description, where they at, what kind of injuries, is the person conscious, et cetera. She went down a checklist like a professional. And I told her that the police department, EMS, were on scene, and she goes, that's good, keep me on the phone for a little bit in case something happens, and I did. I just can't say enough about what I witnessed, and my hat's off to them. And like I said before, I think we got one of the best EMS firefighter organizations in the whole state of North Carolina, and I put them up against anybody. And I mean that sincerely. So thank you for that. And for Norman and his crew and JPD and their crew, well done, just well done. Other than that, I don't have anything else. You saw the rezoning tonight. We had different opinions, but that's the way a board works. We vote, the vote goes through or doesn't go through, we move on to the next issue. You're not going to have all commissioners voting on the same thing or agreeing on the same thing. But the biggest thing about this board is that we can disagree on this board with our opinions as to why we voted a certain way. But once that vote's over, we walk out that door, it's back to business. because the board has spoken, not one individual has spoken, the board has spoken, period. And that's, as a member of the board, we have to keep that in our minds, because once the board has spoken as a group, that's who we serve, the group. We serve the whole entity, the Board of Commissioners, and whether I voted against something or whether Tim Foster voted against something and it goes the other way, it's over. And we work together as a team. So I just wanted everybody to understand that, and I think it's a great thing, and I want to keep this going for a long time. So thank you for coming out tonight. Have a safe trip home, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you, sir. As you can tell, the commissioners are very busy at different events throughout the county, and sometimes you'll have two of us there, sometimes one of us, sometimes all seven of us will be able to make it there. But we are definitely trying to be at all the places as much as we can as a part of what's going on in the community. That's who we represent. Comic Book Fest was postponed. That'll be June 1st now. I'm looking forward to judging that, and who knows, I may come in a character. You never know. So always be ready for who might show up. Talked about the CPR there, Royce. I think it's important too, is that everybody that's graduating from Onslow County Schools and across the state of North Carolina have a requirement for graduation is CPR training. And I believe once you do get that, especially since it's the hands-on, that most people can remember that portion of it. And they also train them with the use of the AEDs to a certain extent. So that's something that is super for that to happen. Sheriff Thomas, he's been busy. He updated us. I'm not sure how many days they've been on the road, but the inmate cleanup crew has been out and about. I think there was an article on that, taking care of the highways, roadsides, and we appreciate you jumping on that initiative and putting that to work. And at the same time, if you're not sure about tax dollars and your sheriff office cars, just in transport alone, in the last year, they have, if you put it all together, over 61 days, 24 hours a day, that's how long they've been on the road, which is a lot of mileage for those deputies and those cars out there. So I'll say that again, the mileage and the time they put on the road, add it all up, 61 days, 24 hours straight is what those cars would be traveling. So hats off to public safety and to the sheriff's office and Sheriff Chris Thomas for what he's doing there, and really doing some good things. We appreciate that. Carolina Museum of the Marine, I've said it 2 or 3 times now. Onslow County is the home of Lejeune Gardens, Beirut Memorial, Montford Point, Corman Memorial, 9/11 Memorial, Vietnam Memorial, and here soon, the Carolina Museum of the Marine. It should be part of Onslow County Schools that they take a field trip to that garden and to see the history of the Marine Corps and the history of Onslow County and the history of basically civil rights with the Montford Point there as well. So a lot of history just on that one area, and that should be something that we all do, except that. And I know Mr. Price pointed out we've contributed over $1 million to that. Folks, we can't put a price tag on that cost. We can tell you what the cost of that museum was. You just have to stop at the Beirut Memorial Wall, read the names. Travel over to the Vietnam Memorial and read the names. There's no dollar value to the men and women that have served the United States Marine Corps and what they brought to Onslow County. So when that building goes up, the fabric of this community will become even tighter than what we have. We are a special place, and that museum coming out of the ground is going to reflect all the men and women that have served in the United States Marine Corps, those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. You can't put a dollar sign on it. But you know what you can put on it? Your freedom. And that museum will represent what we have. You sitting in this audience, you speaking at this microphone, you going to the polls and voting on election day, and us being able to serve at the will of the people because of those that served. With that being said, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.